literature review. So, literature review. So, what is this term literature review? Review of literature or literature review. So, this is actually, we need to go in hunt of uh, research that has been already done on the same area of study that we have taken currently. So, this is very, very important because every researcher towards the end, that is the conclusion, the last chapter, they might have given, they must have given a topic on suggestions for future research. So that forms our research question. So where they might have every researcher approximately they must have given 4 to 5 options like what further research could be done on this topic. So in that case, we can take up any one from that, and that could form our research question, our problem. So this would be the ideal way of beginning a research. So the next step would be, once we have conducted a literature review, we have analyzed various paper research articles, then we go in, we confine, we narrow down our idea, we try to correlate with what we have got. Then based on it, we start collecting data. That is what you call secondary sources. So secondary sources are very, very important before we fix the topic, because once we fix the topic, we should see to it that ample secondary sources are available, right? So without ample secondary sources, our research would be an incomplete task. So first, we need to gather data, that is what you call secondary sources. Next is we need to design our research study. So the plan of work, the research design, how we are going to get along with the process, what are all the various methodologies that we are going to involve in. So all these we need to be taken care. So we need to, I'm sorry friends, before this we need to go for framing a hypothesis. Right? Once we conduct literature review, we need to frame a hypothesis. Then we design, then we collect data. I'm sorry. So this is how the pattern goes. Next, once we start collecting data, we analyze the data. Next, based on the data analysis, we disseminate the results. So this is how the pattern goes of conducting a research. This is a very simple way of simple methodology where the research methodology, the research could be explained. Next, ma'am. So the next is like, what is the meaning of the term research, right? So it is in a scientific, whether it may be a science or in an arts or in a business, everything is the same, right? So it is a systematic search. We go in for, it is an art. It is nothing but research is an art. So we investigate. It is also a form of investigation, right? So uh, so it is, we follow a specific procedure, right? We have a procedure, we have a set of techniques. So we identify, we go in for a process, we analyze. So these are the various steps that are involved when we conduct any research. So the methodology, so how to collect the data, how to analyze it. So this frame needs to be very clear in our mind. So every researcher, before initiating a research, we should have a very clear mindset, like how we are going to collect the data and how we are going to analyze it. So this clear framework helps us to move our research work in a very smoother manner. So the next is a very refined definition of the term. Ma'am, 8th slide. Next. Yes. So highly intellectual. So if we go it in a very refined way, so research methodology, it is a highly intellectual human activity. So this is used in the investigation of nature, matter, and it deals with the manner. So how we collect, analyze, and interpret. So a set of models. So we follow our own system, right? So every researcher, we have our own system of, we have our own pattern of doing this, right? So we have certain models, we have certain procedures, we have certain techniques that is always relevant, that varies from researcher to researcher. So supposedly you are doing the topic, even the topic or the broad area of study may be the same, but the system that we follow in conducting the research differs from individual to individual, right? So only then the result that we expect could be attained. Now, next slide. So in the next slide, we come across a slight difference between methods and methodology. So what is research method and what is research methodology? So as we came across research methodology, it helps us to conduct the research in the right direction. So it validates our research. It makes sure that we are conducting in a proper channel so that we get we get the proper result at the end. So method, research method, so it is confined with techniques and procedures. So we choose the right method. So writing, so this is also our research report writing is also a method. It comes under method. So the next slide, what we come across here is methodology. It is a study of general approach, whereas method is a specific technique, tool, or procedure, right? So research methods, when we use this term method, so it includes economics, it includes mathematics, it includes operations, it includes surveys, data gathering, uh, analysis, the research. So everything is involved when you talk about method. So this what you come across is according to the advanced learners dictionary. It is a careful investigation, yes, and we search for new facts in any branch of knowledge. So, so objectives. So every research it has an objective. So we researchers, so we have to frame our objectives, right? So in that case, in a very generalized manner. So what is the ma'am next slide? So in a very generalized manner, what are the objectives of research, right? So first point, what you come across here is to gain familiarity, right? So the insights to achieve new insights. In order to achieve new insights, we gain familiarity towards it. So number two is we need to portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual or a situation. So a particular, we narrow it down. Yes, narrowing down from a broader area, we narrow down to a particular concept and analyze, right? So the next objective could be the frequency that it occurs. That is what you call the diagnostic area. So how do we diagnose this risk? This problem, because the research is actually an answer that we give for a problem. A solution that we give for a problem. So how are we going to diagnose this? Next is we test the hypothesis. So right at the beginning, once we have done literature review, we go in for setting a hypothetical statement. So that hypothesis, towards the end, once we have gathered data, we have analyzed, again, we try to correlate whether the result, the analysis that we have done, it coincides with the hypothetical statement that we have framed at the beginning, right? So this should coincide. So only then the result that we expect could be achieved. So the next that you come across here is purpose. So every research has a purpose. We review or synthesize the existing knowledge. We investigate. We provide a solution. We explore, analyze. So we construct or create new procedures. We explain new phenomena. We generate new knowledge. So everything, or it can be even a combination of all these. So see, research, it is a very broad area, though it differs from branch to branch. Arts people may have a particular way of conducting the research. Science people, they involve with the laboratory. Arts people, we don't have any laboratory to be involved. And business people, they have field work. So it varies from branches to branches, but the general phenomena is the same. The general purpose is the same. So next is research questions. Research, next slide, ma'am. Research questions. So we need to have certain questions. As a researcher, we need to have certain set of questions within us. So what is it? The main purpose is it is to define the scope of the research. Next, to determine what is to be studied and what is the extent. Extent is the limitations. So we cannot keep going very broad, right? We have to confine with a particular point. So what extent we are expected to do it. Next is the researcher, he or she. So the researcher is distracted from the original objective. So original objectives that we have framed at the beginning, whether we are getting along with it. We are not distracted. Next is, these are the questions that need to be thrown within us at frequent intervals, because every researcher should always have a thirst for answering questions that comes into our mind. Because even when I experienced this, when I was doing my research, my PhD, because now and then, I used to throw questions to myself whether this would suffice, or whether am I going on the right track, whether this objective is satisfied. So the list of objectives that I have framed, I will question myself. So that self questioning, it helps us to a very great extent to reach a perfect solution to the hypothetical statement. Next is, we don't. We encourage new ideas. We discuss with the colleagues. We read more of the literature. We need even we can go in for practical literature review, or any magazines, or even the newspapers help us to a great extent. Any article relevant to our field of study. So once an individual has initiated a research, he or she should they should be active in exploring all sources of information. It may be a newspaper, it may be a very common magazine, anything, but even a small pinch of information could help us at a great extent in giving the updated information. So that is what is important. That is what the weightage of our research lies. So in that case, we need to keep intact with all those. Next, next is, we may even have some research questions, and we can even get responses from our own friend circle. Yes, that opinion will help us to find whether we are on the right track. Next slide, ma'am. So why should we know this research methodology? This question it should raise in our mind. Why should I do this research? Why should I have exposure towards this research methodology? Because it gives us a good training. Yes, so it enables us to do better research. So we will have, once we are aware of this research methodology, we will have a disciplined thinking. Disciplined thinking in the sense, a proper pace of thinking, right? And we can observe things very objectively, right? Next is the various fields that could help us in business administration, community development, social work, whatever it may be. So these all helps us to evaluate and use the research results for action. Next is, it enables intelligent decisions. So research methodology, once we are aware of this research methodology, then initiate a research, our decisions will be very intelligent. We'll have very intelligent decisions. So various problems that are concerned, and the practical life points. So many things that we will be able to view it in a very helps even reaching at a very appropriate result, right? Next slide. So next slide, what we come across here is, we have a pictorial representation on the types of research methodologies. So just have a if you have a very casual look at this diagram, we could find the types. We can start from this right side, experimental, right? So experimental, historical, ethnographic, action research, survey-based research, correlation, causal and comparative. So these are the various types of research methodologies. Next, ma'am. The next one, what you come across is scientific method. So scientifically, what goes? We have a picture of a brain, right? So what goes into our brain? So it is a cyclic process. So scientists, what they say is, it is a research is a cyclic process where we generate new ideas. We conduct research, we analyze the findings, and we use it again to generate more ideas. So that is what I said. Suggestions for future research. So that is where this helps us to a great extent. Next is the eventual goal, right? So it is to build a theory. So an explanation like how and why processes occur. So these are how the scientists have designed this method. The next slide, ma'am. So the same you find here in a very diagrammatic representation. So where you have three major categories: research method. It can be a descriptive, it can be experimental, it can be historical. When you take a descriptive, so you have so many uh, uh, subtitles in it, sub methods, where you call a survey method, content analysis, interrelational, ethnographic, developmental. And when we take up this experimental method, so experimental, historical, right? So this is again defined here, developmental, longitudinal or cross-sectional, again interrelational, wherever it's a case study, correlation. So you have meaning subdivisions in it. And the next slide, ma'am, historical method. So when we look into this method, so it refers to the critical study that where people have done the past events, right? So what people have done, how they have analyzed, how they have derived the conclusions, how they have established the facts. So all these take into account, we need to take into account when we choose the historical method. So this is actually, I just want to throw a light on the various methods, research methods. So depending on our broad area of study, we can be choosing which method, under which method we can fix our research. Yes, friends? So the next slide. So what is this research method actually? So it shows the way, it shows the appropriate way for performing the activities, right from stage one. Stage one is we form hypothesis, right, till the conclusion. So this is a very important note that need to be done. Next is developmental research. So what is this developmental research? Next slide, ma'am. Developmental research. When you talk about this developmental research, so this is a cross-sectional research. So where individuals or living beings changes, right? So some natural, social, mental, physical, environmental factors. So many factors play their role for these changes, right? So in that, that case, to know
Subbalakshmi, ma'am. Subbalakshmi, ma'am. Dear participants, a resource person will join us soon. We are very sorry for the inconvenience. She has some network disturbances. She will join us soon. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, please move on to slide 22, please. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So this descriptive method, so this clarifies, analyzes, it interprets the present situation, attitudes, opinions of people. So it is what you find on the screen. It is a very, as the term descriptive, right? From the term we could identify. It is a very broad analysis. Yes, friends. Ma'am, next slide. Next is experimental. So this experimental, normally science background people, they have to get along with this. So it is exclusively for the science people. So experiments based on the experiments. So the variables, the independent variable, and all those scientific terms, the laboratory related. So this is what the next method is. Next is, next interrelational. So interrelational, this is also in a way. Uh,
Subbalakshmi, ma'am.
relevant
Subbalakshmi, ma'am. Subbalakshmi, ma'am.
to descriptive method, what
Ma'am, we are not able to hear you, ma'am.
we uh,
Subbalakshmi, ma'am.
uh, came
Ma'am, we are
across
not able to understand anything, ma'am. Can you please check, ma'am?
previously. So
Excuse me, ma'am. Subbalakshmi, ma'am.
exist Yes, ma'am. Can I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible,
Now
ma'am.
am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, slide number 25, ma'am. Yes. So the next method of research is ethnographic research. So the term ethnography, so it talks about something that is connected with the society, culture, behavior, right? So this is the area that we have taken, whether we can find whether it is in any way connected with the culture, uh, some uh, type like
Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm 27, ma'am.
Subhash, ma'am, sorry, ma'am, your voice is breaking again, ma'am. We are not able to understand. Subbalakshmi, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Now I am able to hear you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'm in the same position. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, slide number 27, ma'am.
Ma'am, at times your voice is breaking, ma'am. We are not able to understand anything.
Yes, yes, yes. Please hold on that slide. Yes, friends, the broad area, that is the broad types of research is what you find on the screen now. It can be empirical, it can be a library, or it can be a social, it can be scientific, right? So these are the broad areas, that is the broad types of research. So the next slide, what you come across here, ma'am, next slide, ma'am. So the next slide is uh, uh, again we go in for the various analytical ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
one of the previous slide. Always going and applied primary or these whenever initiate, right, friends? Next, ma'am. So this is just an overview, qualitative, quantitative, even mixed method we can use in our research. Next, ma'am. So the major categories that all the researchers in general uses: quantitative and qualitative. Yes, friends. So quantitative is, it is experimental, it is inferential, and it is a simulation approach to research. While as qualitative is, it is concerned with subjective opinion, behavior. Next slide, ma'am. So what is this primary research and secondary research, right? So a small note about it. So primary research, we do it to find, to get first-hand information, and we conduct it by ourselves, and it is based on only the raw data, right? And it takes a long time, and it is a bit expensive. While when we take into account the secondary research, so secondary research, the data acquired through primary is used. So once the primary research is conducted, based on it only we proceed towards the secondary. Next is, it is conducted by someone else, not the person by himself. Next is, it is based on the information that is examined and interpreted. Next is, it is the information that has to be examined. When we go for secondary research, it has to be examined and then interpreted. Next slide, ma'am. The next is research process, right? We have a process to be carried out. Next, ma'am. So when we take this research process, see the first one there, that is there at the top. So identify the problem. Next is review. Next, setting questions, choosing the design. Next, designing the sample. Next, collecting data. Next, process and analyze. Next, writing the report. So this is a process. It is a cyclic process that is being done. So the same we have it through a chart here. So formulate extensive literature review, development, and research design, analysis. I mean research design, sample design, collection of data, execution. Next, analysis. Next, testing. We correlate with hypothesis testing. We interpret. Next, report. Next slide, ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, same slide. So we have four phases here, friends. Number one, first phase is preparation. So we plan for the project, we get an awareness on the research methodology, right? So second phase, the first phase, this is the initial phase which we call phase 0. Phase 1 is the first step that, as I mentioned you previously, it is on literature review, right? So historical information, industry information, review of related studies. So these all put together, it what forms the literature review. Next, phase 2, what we do is assessment tools, the various theories that is connected with our area of study, the assessment tools that is essential. So questionnaire, whether it is going to be questionnaire based, feedback based, so all those we will be discussing in phase 2. And phase 3 is based on what we have decided in phase 2, we implement in phase 3, that is data gathering. So we prepare questionnaire, we distribute questionnaire, we gather answers, we analyze it. So feedback collection, what set of people, to what set of people we are going to distribute, so how many we are going to, so all these will be carried out in phase 3. And phase 4 is we analyze and give a conclusion. Next, ma'am. So the steps. So we have a small diagrammatic representation where it begins with the conceptual phase, concept-based phase, next designing phase, planning phase, next is empirical phase, next is analytical phase, next is dissemination, the result-based phase. So the 5 major phases we have to undergo. Next, ma'am. So we have a set of guidelines. Ma'am, next slide. We have a set of guidelines. Ma'am, no, before slide. Yes, yes, yes. So we have a set of guidelines that need to be followed in a research process. So where we have all these put in a form of a guideline. It is something what we call a checklist. Yes, friends. So next, the steps for preparing research methodology. So focus on your aims and objectives. So identify the research methods. Next is rationale for selecting the method. Next is consider your audience. That is to what type of audience we are going to reach through this research. And based on it, we collect the data. and we analyze the types of data collection. If there are various types of data collection, and through the end, we analyze it and we go in for the one that suits our study. Next, ma'am. Next is, so the scientific method. The first, the scientific method which I told you. So it is how we get a law. Supposingly, if you are choosing a scientific method. So first, right from the top, ask a question, form a hypothesis, collect data, analyze, draw conclusion. So it is laboratory based. So the cycle goes like this. Next, ma'am. Supposingly, if it is a business research. Yes, friends. So business research, first thing is we go in for market analysis. Yes. Next is financial analysis, brand analysis, product analysis, risk analysis, competitor analysis, demand, and then distribution. So this is a rough sketch of a business research. The next one is evaluation. So we have a type by name evaluation research. So what is this evaluation? So we have an idea, we have a theory, and we try to have our own methodology, and we go in for evaluation. So evaluative part like usability, right from the top you can identify usability testing, next A/B testing, and tree testing, closed cut. These are the various forms of evaluative method. If you are going to choose evaluation, yes, so these are the various ways through which we can conduct our research. Next, ma'am. So this evaluative research. So this is nothing but it determines the value of a program or a policy. This is mostly it is with economics or business research. So findings, they are very crucial in decision making, because based on the evaluation only decision making is derived. So in that case, change intervention and strategies and a formal review, evaluation, all these, they have become very common. So in that case, evaluation, if a person, if a researcher chooses evaluation research, they have to be very careful in giving the findings, because they are analyzing things practically, and it is going to affect the market at a greater extent. Next. So this is also known as evaluation, right? From the term evaluation research, even it is equivalent to evaluation, which refers to research purpose instead of a scientific method. I mean specific method. So it is an assessment of the worth or the merit of time, money, effort, resources. So this is connected with the business research. So evaluation is I mean, the evaluative type of research is very sensitive, I could say, because the person who chooses this type should be very careful in giving their data. Next, ma'am. So what are the benefits? So what are the benefits of this evaluative research? So we assess whether the product or the feature is meeting user needs. This is a business research, my friends. So commerce people or MBA people who want to conduct their research, they have to get along only with this type of research. So check the success of a product or feature against it, collect feedback. So overall development of the product, user experience. We could even come across these sorts of advertisements in the television. We can find out door to door, what you call feedback, collecting feedback. Are you satisfied with the existing product? What modifications you want to do? What other products you use? So all such we come across in our day-to-day advertisements in the television. So this is market study. This comes under evaluative research. Next slide. So what is the difference between generative research and evaluative research? So generative research, it focuses on uncovering it is uncovering previously unknown problems, right? Whereas evaluative is one specific problem the team has already identified. So the one that already exists, we are evaluating it, and we find a solution for it. And generative research, it helps for a better understanding of the client. And this evaluative, whereas we already have a product, we already have people, and we have to just help them to get rid of the problem. So this is the basic difference between these two, my friends. Next is evaluative. So evaluative, outcome evaluation we have, impact evaluation. Ma'am, next slide. Next is cost effective, cost benefit, secondary analysis. So these are all the B terms that you call. B terms is business related terminology. So this evaluation research is exclusively for business research. Next, ma'am. So designing a research. The first step is data collection. Next is measures for variables. Next is identifying sample. Next is contact subjects. Next is data analysis. Next is finding. So these are the steps like how to design. So how to design our research. So 6 steps are involved in designing our research. Next, ma'am. So what is this fundamental research and applied research? Two at the time we fundamental researchers. So we seek to do away with the theory, right? And we assume that all remain constant and the reports are written in technical language. Yes, whereas applied research, there is a scope for application. We recognize the other values or other variables are constant and the reports are written in a very standardized language. Yes. Next. So what is the pros and cons of this qualitative and quantitative? Ma'am, next slide. So what is this pros and cons of this qualitative, quantitative? So qualitative, when you take up this qualitative research, it is concerned with attitude, behavior, and it allows flexibility. And when you talk of the cons, it has high possibility of sample selection. We don't have, that is the lack of privacy and the collection of data, it take a longer time. Quantitative. Quantitative is greater sample size. It is very simpler and quicker and information is anonymous. And whereas the cons, when you talk about the cons, survey response is limited and research is not carried in a very surrounding because it is quantitative. So it will be a bit expensive. Next. So significance of research with respect to economics. So economically, even it is concerned with the business research. So as a whole, it has greatly increased because market study has greatly increased in today's globalized environment. So government has focused attention on the use of research in solving many problems. So this plays a significant role. Next point, ma'am. So significance of research with respect to different areas, that is different people. We take up a society where we have students, professionals, literal men and women, philosophers, seeing the word result. I mean, what does the word research stands for them? For example, according to a student, the term research, it means a careerism for them. Yes, and way to attain a high position. Supposingly, if it is for a professional, so research means a source of livelihood, right? For a philosopher and a thinker, it means outlet of new ideas and insights. So for literary men and women, it means the development of new style, development of creative work. To an analyst and an intellectual, research means generalization of new theories. So it varies from individual to individual. Focus. The focus of research varies from individual to individual. So now towards the end, I want to talk about research ethics. Next, ma'am. So the term ethics, because research ethics, before conducting research, we need to be aware of ethics. What are all the ethical codes that need to be followed by a researcher? So according to the Oxford Dictionary, we use the term ethics that is connected with moral principles of a person's behavior. Research ethics, it is specifically interested in the analysis of ethical issues that are involved participants. When we involve participants in research, a field work, we have to be very careful because we have certain norms for it. So next slide, ma'am. So this whether the research ethics related to research subject, whether research facilitators are there. We keep in contact with organizations or institutions. Facilitators. There should be people who facilitate us in execution. collaborations, whether we have collaborations, whether research users are there. So all these need to be focused when we are into a field study. Next is these are the various qualities required for a researcher. Yes, right from we'll start from the top. Integrity. Yes, so integrity, respect, rules, regulations, justice, dignity, confidentiality. Confidentiality, competence, moral principles, ethical principles, values, privacy is very, very important. Honesty, beneficence, autonomy, non-maleficence. So these are the various qualities that is expected from a researcher. Yes. So a researcher should take optimum care while they conduct the research and while they involve any researcher when we are involving public, social, society, we have to be hyper careful and we see to which people are not disturbed in any way, either morally or uh, what you call, they are not into any disturbances because of our conduct of research. So we have to be very careful, friends. Yes, ma'am. I hope I have done my part, my friends. Sorry, my friends. Somewhere in the right from the beginning, we had some network interruption. I've